Hey, good morning, everybody. So, Nima is the Raven Scholar. Raven Scholar is a new book coming out by Antonia Hodgson. This book should be dropping on. This book just came out April 15th. I did get to listen to an advanced listening copy, and it's the first book in a new series coming out. Nima's in a kind of a weird place. First of all, she is the High Scholar for the Empire. This is pretty much her dream job. She gets to read all the time, she gets to study, she just gets to learn things. And most of the time she doesn't have to deal with people too much, which is really good because on the other hand, Nima doesn't get along with everybody. Can't really figure out a lot why that is. I do know that she has a very popular rival who doesn't like her. And, it is, courts and intrigue and stuff like that. And so, maybe just the wrong whispers in the wrong ear have kind of set everybody against her. But all in all, no complaints. The Emperor's term. But all in all, no complaints. The current Emperor's term is up. He's got to go ahead and step down from the throne. In this place, each emperor has a maximum. They can step down earlier if they want, but there's a maximum amount of time that they're allowed to spend, and then they have to give it up. And the new emperor is not picked by relations or even a vote. It is basically a contest. There are 8 groups of people, each I don't want to say worshiping, that's probably not the right word, but each following the ways of a different guardian. The guardian is kind of the religion in this storyline. They're all based on animals. Obviously, we already said Nima is the Raven Scholar, so there's Raven, there's Ox, there's Fox, there's Dragon, there's a whole bunch of them. And so each one of those groups, and those groups are also not necessarily familial, anybody can follow any path, but each one of those groups picks a representative to go through some contests, and then the winner of the contest is the new emperor for as long as they want or until their time comes up again. So, uh, Emperor stepping down, and he's already promised her a place in his when he goes to his retire, and so she's still going to get to be a scholar. Things could be worse. She definitely has some issues that I don't want to get into too much without getting too spoilery. Uh, but she's content. She'll be happy. Which, of course, on a story like this is where everything goes wrong. One of the other ravens, the one that has been chosen to represent them in the contest, bad things happen, and all fingers point to Nima. So, to make things even more complicated, Nima, to nobody's understanding, possibly including hers, is not only put in charge of investigating it, even though she's the prime suspect, she's also set up to replace them in the trials. So, of course, now everybody also thinks she has motive to do it. And so she's got to investigate it while she's doing the trials, and the trials include combat. And Nima has been the high scholar for years now. She did not train for this. She's going up against 7 other people that have trained not only to pass the trials, and there are each aspect gets to set their own trial. So there's a fox trial, there's a raven trial, there's a monkey trial, there's a tiger trial, and of course the person who set up that trial can't participate. But because each one gets to set up a trial, therefore none of them have an advantage. But they also have to fight each other, and she's not prepared for that. Everything else I can tell you about this book is going to be a little spoilery. This is very much, obviously, there's the fighting aspect going on. There's the figuring out the trials, because not all the trials, they tell you what you need to do, but they don't always tell you how you need to do it. And the how seems to be much more important than the actual completion. So, super interesting on that. I love that whole idea. There's the political intrigue, of course. We've already talked about that. Uh, but yeah, she's everything is stacked against her in this. And then, of course, you also have to deal with the Guardians themselves, who are pretty much absent from everything, but still know how to meddle in the affairs of men because, what would be the fun of being an all powerful Guardian if you couldn't? Anyhow, should you read this book? I personally would say yes. I do have a couple aspects. I ended up giving it 4 stars on Goodreads, and I'll tell you the main reason that I brought it down just a little. Uh, and it's not enough to kill the book. It's just the part that threw me off. Nima's character and some of the other characters around her very, very much read teen angst, maybe type of stuff. Maybe a little, maybe early 20s, maybe teens. Mainly feels like teens. But intellectually, in the story, based on the times that things happen, Nima's got to be early 30s. Uh, so the problem I have with this is kind of the same problem I had. If anybody watched the Gilmore Girls, the final 4 episode wrap up that they did years later, there's a lot of stuff that happened in there that I think would have been much more poignant at the end of the original series when Rory was like 20. That just seemed off now that she's 30. So, take that for a grain of salt. Uh, didn't really notice it as much while I was reading it because I was lost in the story and I wasn't really thinking about the fact that, like, wait, she's in her 30s. Some of these other people, they're in their 30s. Why are they acting like this? Uh, so you kind of get wrapped in. So it kind of has that YA feel to it, but it's not a bad YA feel. It's just the only issue I had after the fact when I'm like, some of that stuff I don't know if I quite believed. Uh, but if you set that aside and you just read it for what it is, absolutely worth reading. I am interested to see where they go with this. There's definitely set up for a book 2. In fact, I know it's supposed to be a trilogy. I believe it's called the Eternal Path trilogy. But anyhow, Raven Scholar is book 1 in the series. Just came out. I think it's worth picking up. I enjoyed it. May not be for everybody. If you don't like that YA feel to a book, you might vie away from this. Now, there is always the chance, too, that she's going to, in book 2 and 3, mature some of these characters, which I think would definitely help. But yeah, like I said, that was my really only drawback is the whole, they're acting, in my opinion, they're acting younger than what they actually are. But if you like political intrigue, if you like mystery, if you like, fantasy, and it's I can't remember how long this book was. Hang on. It is a little bit of a chunker. I listened to it, which is why I can't always remember how many. It is 656 pages, so it's got a little thickness to it. It will take you a minute to get through this one. But it didn't feel that long while I was listening to it. The story is very, like I said, it keeps you going through the narrative. Even the informational parts, where there's not action going on, because then you're usually still going through what happened or what's happening or trying to figure out what's happening. It has that pacing. So it really does feel like a shorter book than it is. I just know that some of you are going to say 656 pages. I ain't got time for that. And maybe you don't, but I think it was worth it. Again, still 4 stars, even with the issues that I had with it, and looking forward to book 2. All right, catch you guys later.